Okay, in this video we're going to talk about how to factor sum and difference of squares. So in the last video we talked about factoring. Step 1, always checking that greatest common factor, the GCF. Then step 2 is count the terms. And in step 2 we did 4 terms, 3 terms. Now we're going to do 2 terms. So those 2 terms we're going to have a squared minus b squared, which is known as the difference of squares. This is factorable to a minus b times a plus b. This is the difference because it's subtraction. Difference of squares formula. Okay? Now, a squared plus b squared, this is actually what we say is prime. It's not factorable. Like 7 is 1 times 7. There's no other factors. That's a prime number. A prime expression, we cannot factor it. So this is the sum of squares. So if you see a sum of squares, you should be really happy because you can't do anything with it but just rewrite it or write out prime. Okay? But this formula here is probably the most forgotten formula that I see on tests. And it's really not bad. 1's plus, 1's minus. Okay? So let's do an example. X squared minus 25. Is this a sum or a difference? Well, there's a negative in between, so it's a difference of squares. Literally all we do. Okay, I see I have an a here, but that's an a squared term, so I need to take the square root of each piece. What is the square root of x squared? That's equal to x, assuming it's, variable's positive, right? So this is equal to x, okay? And now this is going to be, square root of 25 is going to be what? Square root of 25 is 5. So I'm going to have x minus 5, x plus 5. And that's it. That's your answer. Okay, you square root each piece. And then whatever those are, you put 1 plus, 1 minus, and you're good to go. That's all there is to it. Okay, let's try another one. 9y squared minus 49z to the 4th. Okay, it's a difference of squares. So I know I'm going to be of this form here. So I'm going to square root the first piece, 9y squared. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of y squared takes 2 to get out, so 1. So that's 3y. 3y. Now 1's a plus, 1's a minus. Okay? Doesn't matter if you put the minus or the plus first. You just got to put 1 positive, 1 negative. And then this other one is 49z to the 4th. Square root of 49 is 7. Square root of z to the 4th, that's zz. So there's 2 groups of z that come out. So one is a plus 7z squared and one is a minus 7z squared. Okay? And if you had flopped around the plus and the minus sign, that'd be just fine. The order in which you multiply does not matter, right? A times b is the same as b times a. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful. What if I had 4x squared plus 32y squared? Okay, can I factor this any? Well, it's a sum of squares, so no. Oh, wait a second. I can factor. What is the first step in factoring? First step is GCF. What do I have in common between the two? I've got a 4 in common between those two. So this is 4 times, and then x squared plus 8y squared. Now, can I factor this in here? That's a sum of square. Sum of squares you can't factor, that's prime, so my answer here is 4 times x squared plus 8y squared, and that's it. Okay, so always do GCF first. That's probably the most common thing I see people mess up. They just forget. All right, they just forget. So let's just do one problem, and then we'll kind of summarize it up. So x cubed plus 6x squared plus 7x. All right, step 1 for factoring. So factor. What are you going to do? GCF. What's in common between all those? There's an x with all of these. So I'm going to pull an x out. That leaves me x squared plus 6x plus 7. Okay, inside here is a trinomial. If there's a trinomial, I think T-chart, AC method. So 7 times 1 gets me 7. So multiply to 7 and then add to 6. 7 times 1. 7 times 1, well, that's going to add to 8. Negative 7 times negative 1, that adds to negative 8. Oh my goodness. So what is that telling me there? This thing right here, this is prime. I can't factor this. Okay? I've listed out all the different ways I can multiply to get 7, but none of them add to 6. So can I do anything else? No. So my answer, x squared. So x times x squared plus 6x plus 7. So be careful. Not all trinomials will factor. Okay, so just going to throw that in for you, just so you don't let that trip you up.